It's the Lance Roberts Show.
And welcome to this morning's edition of the show. It's 6:07 on this Monday as we kind of get things back underway once again. Of course, lots of big news out over the weekend, and we're going to have today we're going to talk about trade. Guess what?
Trade you.
Lots of stuff going on with trade. Lots of misstatements coming out about trade over the weekend. Even now, there's even some debate going on between White House officials about the impact of trade. So I thought we'd go through some of those issues today. Try to explain to you why the current assumptions about trade are incorrect, because they're based on an old economy versus our new economy. And so we'll talk about some of these things this morning in some more detail. A couple of things, though. If you go to our website, we do have a newsletter out this morning. It came out this weekend, and it's called, in honor of the end of Game of Thrones. I don't know what I'm going to watch now. By the way, did you hear about, so Game of Thrones was shot in Northern Ireland, right? And this has been going on now for about 9 years, I think. Altogether, they've been the shooting, because it's been 8 seasons, and then, of course, the time they have to start gearing up for the shooting and all this. So, but it spawned this whole plethora of businesses in Northern Ireland from things that had pretty much died out. Blacksmiths.
Oh, yeah.
Craft working and
stuff from the olden days.
Yeah, the stuff that we used to do way back when.
Whips.
Yeah, no, right. And so, it spawned this whole cottage industry of, these businesses that were needed to support the filming of Game of Thrones. Now, of course, this is over, and, well, we don't need you anymore. So
history repeating itself.
Exactly. But it is kind of interesting, it's when you get into one of these series is that it creates this whole business environment for supporting the show. And this is the way it is with a lot of things in the economy, is that when we think about oil and gas. There was this weekend, my wife's aunt's daughter, her nephew, I guess. I'm not sure what. Yeah, I don't know. It's fourth removed cousin from the ninth end of the left realm. I'm not sure what it is.
Kinfolk.
Anyway, she graduated college this weekend.
Oh, well, congratulations.
She did great. Yeah. And but they went up to go see her. And now you have to remember that we live in Houston, Texas, right? So what's our primary industry in Houston, Texas?
Traffic.
That's not our primary business. That's our primary plague.
Oil.
Yes, oil. That's right. So, of course, she went to Austin to go to college.
Here it comes.
You know where we're headed, right? So she graduated. So they're having lunch after to celebrate the graduation, and her mom was the chief financial officer of a major oil. Well, it doesn't matter anymore. Was El Paso, which sold out a while back, and she was CFO of the company. And so, they did very well financially, and they've lived a good life. And so, the wife, the mom asked the daughter and says, "So why don't you think about going into oil and gas?" She says, "I will never work in oil and gas because it's bad for the environment." And you have to kind of chuckle, right? Because her whole life has been funded by oil and gas. My wife works in oil and gas. And it's just everybody in Houston pretty much in one way or another. And again, you may not be in oil and gas, but guess what? Your business is probably supported by oil and gas. And this is the point about what's happening in Northern Ireland, right? This whole movie industry supported all these other spin-off businesses. But it's the same way here in Houston. You may not be, it's just even our business, right? Our business has nothing to do with oil and gas. Most of our clients are involved with oil and gas. So indirectly, oil and gas supports our business.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. It's just this attitude coming up of this younger generation. It's like, oh, oil and gas, it's terrible for the economy. Okay, that's great. let's all drive electric cars, which we have to strip mine the planet. We've gone through this before. Strip mine the planet for the stuff for the batteries, and you got to use coal to make the energy, and it's just the misguided nature of how things work in the world, right? There's nothing that, and so and so it's like okay, fine. We won't do electric cars. We'll do all solar energy cars, right? Okay, so you guys strip mine the planet for the stuff to make the solar power panels, right? So, can't really be all that good for the economy or the environment. All right, well, let's I'll tell you what. Then let's just use all turbines. So we'll put 5 million wind turbines up all across the country because they don't have a really good transmission of energy. So we've got to have a lot of them. Well, where do you think the metal comes from, and how do you think that all gets produced? This stuff just doesn't just show up, and you get free electricity out of it. It just doesn't work that way, and it's just this misguided nature of these very things. So. This is the same problem, though, that we have right now with Washington, D.C., and this idea about trade. It's not a zero-sum game in terms of I throw on a tariff and nothing else is impacted. Everything, the only people that get hurt, and this is a lot of tweets, and we'll go through a couple of tweets today that Donald Trump sent out over the weekend, the president thinks that a tariff only impacts China. And that's not the way the world works. Nor is it an impact of simply shifting what you produce. And this was one of the tweets he put out this weekend. He says, hey, you don't like tariffs? Start producing more stuff in the United States. It doesn't work that way. And I'll explain to you why. And it's Amazon's fault it doesn't work that way when we come back after the break.
Catch Lance Roberts' podcast later at lancerobertsshow.com.